Good day. It's April 21st, 2025. The impasse between the judicial branch and the executive branch of the U.S. government over the return of El Salvadorian migrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia puts the country now at the doorstep of a constitutional crisis. I'm Marievelle Villanueva. Welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Joe Buban. Welcome to this week's edition.
Last week, in a 9-0 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with the federal district judge, Paula Sinis, that ordered the Trump administration to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia from the infamous maximum security prison, whom the U.S. Justice Department admitted that he was deported by mistake. The Trump administration went all the way to the Supreme Court, hoping the High Court will overrule the lower court, and the Court of Appeals, who also agreed with the lower court. In spite of the High Court's decision, still the Trump administration refused to comply with the order to facilitate the return to the U.S. of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, saying it no longer has the authority to release from an El Salvadorian prison. The lawyer representing Mr. Garcia told the MSNBC that Mr. Abrego Garcia was sent to El Salvador prison at the direction of the U.S. government, and that the U.S. is the one paying El Salvador to house these prisoners. That is, someone from the administration will pick up the phone and make an earnest effort to ask El Salvador for his release and return, that El Salvador would do it. This particular case has become a central flashpoint between the judicial branch and the executive branch, and continued to pick up world attention, and had also gained enormous support in the U.S. to have this immigrant returned to the U.S. The Trump administration officials all indicated their opposition to his return, trying all spin arguments why they can't simply return him. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that this now requires diplomatic process. Attorney General Pam Bondi tells about a different interpretation of the Supreme Court decision, an ICE official maintaining Abrego Garcia is a gang member and a criminal. And White House advisor Stephen Miller, in front of a press conference with President Trump and President Bukele of El Salvador, who was visiting the White House, told Trump that the district court order was unlawful and the Supreme Court reversed it 9-0. Stephen Miller actually mischaracterized the Supreme Court decision. Maryland U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador last week to talk to the president of El Salvador to inquire about possibility of Abrego Garcia's release and return to the U.S. In a press conference, Senator Van Hollen said he asked the El Salvadorian government if Kilmar Abrego Garcia had committed any crime in El Salvador. The president told him the government has no record of any criminal record of Abrego Garcia, and that he asked, why then is he being kept in prison? The answer was that the U.S. is paying El Salvador to keep him in CCOT, the infamous mega prison that is supposed to house terrorists. The Trump administration is clearly ignoring the court order of Judge Paula Sinis, the U.S. District Court judge in Baltimore, Maryland. The judge was obviously unhappy that the administration is not doing anything about her order, to the point that she now wants officials to appear before the court and answer questions under oath about what is being done to comply with her order. She is indicating holding the Trump administration in contempt for defying her order. She said, I will not hold yet the administration in contempt, but wants to hold a closed-door hearing to hear from the officials under oath.
The White House launched a new initiative encouraging Americans to report undocumented immigrants. The announcement includes a 24-hour hotline immigration customs enforcement, which some believe backfired amid ongoing protests of the Trump administration's initiatives. The announcement led many users to call for the deportation of Elon Musk due to his controversial role overseeing job cuts in the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk is a South African migrant who many alleges that he is in the United States illegally.
Last week, the Republican Congress, along with 4 Democrats, voted to pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which was introduced by MAGA Texas Republican Congressman Chip Roy. While supporters of the bill argue that it will make sure the non-citizens don't vote, others speculate it is another form of voter suppression. The law would require citizens to show proof of citizenship by not only showing of identification card or military identification, but mandatory with passport or birth certificate when they go to vote. Opponents are asking, what if the person does not have a passport or can't physically find the birth certificate? This bill will be harder to have common method to register to vote. Even voters in rural areas will have a really hard time voting, as they will have to drive almost 100 miles to find the nearest election polling station, according to opponents of this bill. The bill also includes that women who had their maiden names removed when they got married are forbidden from voting unless they register to vote in their married name.
California State Attorney General Rob Bonta had filed a lawsuit in behalf of California, saying the Trump tariffs had harmed the California economy. The arguments by the plaintiff challenges Trump's use of a 1977 law allowing the president to impose tariff without congressional approval is illegal. The same lawsuit challenges Trump's use of the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, arguing that the IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose them. In an interview with MSNBC, Attorney General Rob Bonta described how the state of California will suffer severely over the imposition of these tariffs. Meanwhile, more and more countries besides Canada and other European countries had put out travel advisories discouraging their citizens from traveling to the United States. In Florida alone, in the month of March and April saw a 38% decline on travelers from Canada. It is beginning to be felt by several industries like the airlines, hotels, and businesses that rely primarily on tourism. In Los Angeles International Airport, there had now been 12% decline on international flights arrival compared to the same months last year. Also being reported are the decline on arrivals in Las Vegas by foreign visitors at Harry Reid International Airport, now down by more than 8% compared to the number of arrivals last year during March and April period. According to multiple media outlets worldwide, people around the world are appalled of what they are now seeing in the U.S. Most recently, the government of China last week told its citizens of do not travel to the U.S., warning that the economic and security situation in the U.S. had deteriorated and that Chinese travelers faces possibility of being detained at port of entry. We are going to take a commercial break. Please stay with us.
We use headphones as a part of our everyday lives. Whether we're at work, getting exercise, meditating, in transit, studying, practicing, or relaxing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sway, the founder of Aircom. I would like to introduce the world's first wireless airflow audio earbuds. As a festival and a concert junkie, I really enjoy the live experience of being there and feeling the music. When we started developing Airflow, our goal was to reproduce that live experience using earbuds.
The problem with traditional headphones is that the speakers are located inside of the earpiece, literally giving you centimeters before the audio hits your eardrum.
What Aircom is doing, they're the first company to actually address the fact that there needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and Aircom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
Real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using it.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, the magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
Welcome back to The Pulse. In a report from the Associated Press, 12 Algerian diplomats are expelled by France in a tit-for-tat measure due to diplomatic tensions. As tensions between the two nations escalated, France said on Tuesday that it was removing 12 Algerian diplomatic staff, one day after Algeria declared the same number of French diplomats were being expelled. Although rifts between the two countries have been worsening since last summer, Algeria claimed on Monday that it has expelled 12 French personnel because French police had arrested an Algerian consular official in connection with an abduction case. At that point, France changed its stance in favor of Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara, a disputed region that is claimed by the Algeria-backed pro-independence Polisario Front. The arrest of French-Algerian author Boualem Sansal, a vocal opponent of Islamism and the Algerian government. The arrest in November further escalated tensions. Boualem Sansal was tried and convicted, but he later on appealed the decision, which resulted in a 5-year prison sentence. Algerian authorities were responsible for a brutal deterioration in our bilateral relations, said French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot on X. The Algeria's decision was unjustified and that dialogue cannot go one way, he added. French counterterrorism prosecutors said 3 Algerian nationals in total were arrested last week and handed preliminary charges of kidnapping or arbitrary detention in connection with a terrorist undertaking. The group is allegedly involved in the April 2024 kidnapping of an Algerian influencer, Amir Boukrouz, or Amir DZ, a known critic of the Algerian government with 1.1 million followers on TikTok. The Algerian Foreign Affairs Ministry stated that the arrest of the consular officials as part of the kidnapping case was intended to humiliate Algeria, with no consideration for the consular status of this agent, disregarding all diplomatic customs and practices, and in flagrant violation of the relevant conventions and treaties. The new escalation of hostility followed a brief softening of hostilities approximately 2 weeks ago when French President Emmanuel Macron called Algerian counterpart Abdelmajid Tebboune. French officials stated at the time that they had agreed to resume bilateral relations.
In our international news, Al Jazeera reports that Sudanese paramilitaries form a parallel government 2 years into civil war. The rebel group Rapid Support Forces, a large paramilitary group that is formerly called the Janjaweeds, declares rival authority in regions under its control as the U.S. raises concern about the suspected targeting of civilians in Darfur. Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces have announced the formation of a rival government. 2 years after the country slid into a violent civil war that has killed tens of thousands and resulted in what the United Nations deems the world's worst humanitarian disaster, the RSF, commanded by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedti, declared on Tuesday the establishment of a government of peace and unity in the districts under its control. The move immediately confronts the army-dominated administration led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. On this anniversary, we proudly declared the establishment of the Government of Peace and Unity, a broad coalition that reflects the true face of Sudan, the Gallo of the RSF told Telegram app users. On February, the RSF and its allies signed a charter in Nairobi that stated their aim to build an alternative authority. The Gallo stated that they have now approved a transitional constitution which they termed as roadmap for a new Sudan. The proposal envisions a 15-member presidential council that represents all regions of the country. Experts have long warned that Sudan's continuous conflict threatens to irrevocably fracture the country. Sata Srinivasan, a Sudan researcher at the University of Cambridge, told the Associated Free Press that the RSF's entrenchment in Darfur might lead to de facto separation. Since the war began on April 15, 2023, approximately 13 million people have been displaced with no political solution in sight. The violence began following months of animosity between Sudan's military and the RSF, formerly partners who co-led the 2021 coup that halted a civilian-led transition. As the RSF strives to solidify authority in Western Sudan, the paramilitary and its partner militias are facing fresh international criticism for their actions throughout the conflict. The U.S. condemned the RSF on Tuesday for recent attacks on civilians in and near the Zamzam and Abu Shuk camps in North Darfur, which house hundreds of thousands of displaced people. The UN said that at least 300 civilians were killed in the RSF attacks on the camps on Friday and Saturday. We are deeply alarmed by reports the RSF has deliberately targeted civilians and humanitarian actors, said a U.S. State Department spokesman Tammy Bruce. She appealed for all parties to uphold international humanitarian law and face accountability for transgressions.
Let's take a commercial break. Please stay tuned.
We use headphones as a part of our everyday lives. Whether we're at work, getting exercise, meditating, in transit, studying, practicing, or relaxing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sway, the founder of Aircom. I would like to introduce the world's first wireless airflow audio earbuds. As a festival and a concert junkie, I really enjoy the live experience of being there and feeling the music. When we started developing Airflow, our goal was to reproduce that live experience using earbuds.
The problem with traditional headphones is that The speakers are located inside of the earpiece, literally giving you centimeters before the audio hits your eardrum.
What AirCom is doing, they're the first company to actually address the fact that there needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and AirCom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
It's real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using it.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, the magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. The tension between the U.S. and China is not only because of the trade war, but recently China logged a protest to a Google Map app that described a portion of South China Sea as West Philippine Sea. That particular sea had for long been designated and named West Philippine Sea to denote the area that is part of the sovereign economic zone of the Philippines. China had been sending their naval and Coast Guard vessels into the Philippine Economic Zone multiple times to assert sovereignty on that disputed sea that has been adjudicated by the International Court as part of the Philippine Sovereign Economic Zone. In response, the United States had sent its aircraft carrier, the USS Carl Vinson, and it had been joining the Philippine Navy in joint patrol of the West Philippine Sea.
Let's take a look at the Las Vegas community scene. The Clark County Commission has finally approved a resolution designating the Filipino town Las Vegas Cultural District. At the Clark County Commission at the April 15 meeting, a big crowd of Filipino Americans came to support the project that was spearheaded by Reverend Pastor Rosita Lee and handpicked 12 Phil-Am community leaders who sits in the volunteer board of Filipino Town Las Vegas. The Philippine Honorary Consul of Las Vegas, Amy Belmonte, was also at the commission hearing, together with numerous officials of various Phil-Am civic organizations. When the Clark County Board of Commissioners, Chairman Texegroblum, called for the vote on the resolution designating the Filipino town, the vote was unanimous by all 7 commissioners. Our congratulations to American Filipinos of Nevada.
Speaker Mike Johnson's budget reconciliation bill that will formally be appropriations bill for the next 4 years is now facing opposition from his own ranks in Republican Party in the House of Representatives. By midweek last week, there are now 12 Republican Congress members who will not vote in favor of the bill. The opposition has something to do with 12 GOP members who disagree to Medicaid cutbacks. In the U.S. Senate, there are also few in the Republican majority-controlled Senate that are voting no on the bill because of unpopular cuts on Medicaid funding, which is part of Trump's agenda and Elon Musk's DOGE policy. More in the Republican-led states have higher numbers of people who are covered by Medicaid percentage-wise, and state governors are worried about the loss of Medicaid funding. The budget reconciliation bill proposes some $880 billion in Medicaid funding over a period of 10 years, about $80 billion a year. Saving from essential programs like Medicaid and other safety net programs are being put into the equation in order to pay for the tax cuts for wealthy and big corporations, according to many lawmakers and observers. We will leave it at that as we are out of time for this edition. Please join us again next week here at The Pulse. I'm Marievelle Villanueva. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Joe Buban. Happy Easter. God bless your week.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.